Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear us. It's 2 o'clock. It's 2:01 right now. We've got a little around half or just below half of the registered attendees, so we're going to wait a couple more minutes and then we're going to get started. All right, let's get started. Sorry, just one more second, then we're going to get started. Okay, let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, so please ask questions. Anything we don't answer now during the webinar, we'll try to answer shortly afterwards. We've got all of your contact information, and so we can reach out to you directly and get all the information that way to send it out to you. So the topic we talked about for today's webinar is dispelling the myths around string inverters. So I'm going to hand the control over to Danny for a couple of minutes just to give a couple of words about Frankensolar and their operation, and then he'll pass it back to me. So let me find Danny here. Danny, go ahead.
Hey Bilal, thanks for handing this over and for the Fronius team and yourself to organize this. So really excited about this, and I think it's a really important topic to discuss string inverters, because there's a lot of untruths out there and a lot of perceptions that I think would be good to address. So if you want to go to the next slide. No. Can you hear me, Bilal?
Sorry. Danny, can you hear me? Have you got mic?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hey, Bilal. Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Sounds like everyone else can hear us, just Bilal can't hear me. So yeah, a little bit about Frankensolar quickly before we get into the presentation. So let's get started. Okay, Bob Frankensolar. So we were established in 1990 in the Franken region of Germany as a solar distributor. Franken region is in Bavaria, and we've actually worked with Fronius since 1991. So the relationship with Fronius goes way back. In 2011, because of the program we had in Ontario, Frankensolar decided to open up a shop at the time in Mississauga. And since we moved to a little bit north to Brampton, and we also have a location in Edmonton. So 2 locations across the country, and we've successfully supplied equipment to over 10,000 systems across the country. I also have 15 full-time employees, and they're all based in Ontario at the moment, although we do have sales representatives for the Western Canadian market as well. So what makes Frankensolar different is, as I mentioned, we've been around since 1990, so we have a wealth of experience, relationships with many suppliers out there, and we've really kind of been able to separate the good manufacturers from the bad and work with the ones that have proven to be very supportive and have really good products. We also try to educate our customers. We're a little bit different than some of the other distributors out there, where we always try to push the boundaries, bring the industry forward as a whole, and find more efficient ways of doing things, bringing system costs down, and also working on making systems more reliable. Of course, we're very competitive on the pricing side, as well as those of you that have worked with us in the past know. And we just recently actually started to offer free shipping as well for orders over $5,000 across the country, which is super exciting and we're very excited about. Now, the reason why we have this webinar and why string inverters, I think it really comes down to design philosophy, and there's certainly no product that fits everything, but in general, we would like to avoid points of failure. That's a general design philosophy we have at Frankensolar, and we would never recommend, for example, power level electronic, panel level electronics for a ground mount, for example. That's just overkill. And as Bilal will talk about, if we can reduce points of failure, everyone will be happy for the years to come. There is going into the points of failure as well. Everyone is always excited about getting panel level monitoring. I think that is more a sales feature than anything personally, because if you're looking at panel failures versus microinverter or optimizer failures, you'll see a big delta there. Panel failures are usually a few parts per million, usually like 80 to 100 parts per million per year, where versus microinverter, which run at a 1 to 2% per year. It's a more efficient system. Usually, string inverters are more efficient than microinverters. There's only one place of losses. Optimizers are not 100% efficient, so you have losses at the optimizer, and then you have losses at the inverter in that scenario. So we can avoid losses and design a more efficient system that's of advantage. And also, as always, reducing system complexity, fewer parts, generally less complex systems, and with that, lower costs as well. So be very happy to pass the puck over to Bilal and have you take it from there, Bilal.
Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you for your words. I appreciate your time and everyone's time today. Really thank you for joining us. I'm going to jump right into it just so you guys have a lay of the land. I'm going to go over some basics. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but just to touch on every topic for people who are not so familiar with Fronius, just so you know what our capabilities are. And if you have any additional questions, like I said, we're very accessible. Between Frankensolar and us, we can answer any questions that you've got. I make myself generally available, so just let me know how I can help and what I can answer for you. So how it all began, Fronius started in 1945 in Pettenbach, Austria. That is just to say that we've been in business for a great number of years now, doing solar and welding and a number of other things. We've got 3 business units. In Canada, we have 2. We have our welding business unit and our solar business unit. The reason this is important to mention is because they're located both in Canada. We're incorporated in Canada in Mississauga, Ontario, and we're locally diversified. That's why we are one of the only inverter manufacturers that was here right at the start of the solar program that started in Ontario in 2009. And we have been here ever since, and we will continue to be here invested locally to support the Canadian market, because when the solar coaster goes up and goes down, we will be able to mitigate those issues by depending on our welding business unit to stay in business and to keep Canadian jobs, to keep being bankable locally, to offer warranties locally, to offer inventory locally to our distributors and ultimately to the customers. And so that's a very important topic that I like to talk about. Fronius Canada has been around since 2007. The solar energy business unit has been around since 2010. So the first thing I want to talk about, because I think it's probably one of the more important topics, is our local technical support. We've got what is absolutely the best technical support in Canada. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our customers telling us the same thing. It's a really great system that we have going. So I know I've gotten a lot of feedback from my customers when they work with competitors. You know, the products are good and everything the price is good, but then they have a technical issue and they call their tech support and they're sitting on hold for 4 hours plus so that they can get someone on the line. And then even when they get someone on the line, it's rare that they can speak English or even good English. So it's important to us that we have good local tech support who can offer a good understanding of the Canadian market, really understand what your projects are going through, what the environment is like in Canada, understand that it's a very unique country compared to the rest of the world, and that we have very interesting issues, and that our tech support team is prepared to answer those questions. We are responsive on multiple platforms. We actually check our voicemail, so when you leave a voicemail for us, it will be checked and they will get back to you. And the greatest thing with our tech support is that you can actually book appointments. So if your site is a number of hours away, or if you've got an important customer with you on site, or you just can't afford to wait on hold or to hear back, then what you can do is leave a message or send an email to our tech support team and say, look, I'll be on site on this day at this time. I really need someone to be available to answer the phone because I've got a very limited time, or I have a very important client with me that needs results. Then we'll actually book a time where one of our technicians will avoid answering the phone so that they're available to answer your call on that day at that time when you call them. So it's been received with a lot of great feedback. And if there's a very specific need, then that's something that we can support with as well. Our vision is 24 hours of sun. The world can be powered by 24 hours of renewable energy. While we can't offer every technology to do that, we're going to do our best to support that vision. So we've got two snap inverter series that are the most commonly used. We've got the SIMO for 3-phase. Those are 480 volt inverters ranging from 10 to 24 kilowatts. And then we've got the 208 volt 3-phase inverters going from 10 to 15 kilowatts. On the single phase side, we've got single phase inverters called in the Primo series, ranging from 3.8 kilowatts up to 8.2 for residential, and 10 to 15 kilowatts for ground mount or rooftop commercial single phase projects. We've got a lot of great mounting options. As you can see on this slide here, that's the mounting bracket. And so the mounting bracket can be installed very easily, usually just with a U-bolt and a couple pieces of strut on a ground mount, or just a couple pieces of strut or whatever the mounting medium is on a wall mount or a roof mount. It's very easy to install. All you need is 4 connection points and the system's online. I don't know if it's too small to see the details, but you can see that the inverters are NEMA 4X. They can be installed at 0 to 90 degrees angle upright. And so they can be installed outdoors. They can be installed with a lot of different configurations. The benefit of this is you can really install these close to the array. So to get within 1 meter of the array with Fronius is very easy. So there's no additional rapid shutdown for, say, for example, a 1,000 volt rooftop. For example, you can get the inverter within 1 meter of the array and avoid that requirement. If you do put these on, if these are on the ground, they're usually getting shade from the modules themselves, if they're installed on the leg of the racking. But if they're on the roof, what you could actually do is pick up one of our Fronius shade covers. Now, the inverters, like I said, can be installed outside, no problem. And if they're installed in direct sunlight, they will still work just fine. But the only things that do well in the sun are water and plants. Everything else lives a longer, healthier, happier life. If you consider, I mean, if you've got the choice to put your car in the garage or put your car in the driveway, your choice is always going to be to put your car in the garage. It'll just be better protected and last longer. And that's true for pretty much everything in the world. And that's also true for inverters. So if you are putting them in direct sunlight on a rooftop flat, flush to the roof, we always recommend the shade cover to give it a little bit of extra life. We've got the best operating range in the industry, minus 40 degrees on the low side. So our inverters are inherently designed to minus 40. The intent was to design them to minus 25, like all of our competitors. And we went back to them 10 years ago and said, no, that's not going to work in Canada. We've got a lot of great weight north and a lot of challenging situations climate-wise in Canada. And so we really need these to be designed to minus 40. So they went back and redesigned them to make sure that these can be installed virtually anywhere in Canada. On the high temperature side, ambient temperature up to 60 degrees Celsius. With the best derate curve in the industry, we'll start to derate at a much higher temperature than any of our competitors. That's because we have active cooling, forced cooling in the inverters via fans. And so the fans will drive the air over the radiator fins to make sure that your inverter is operating at the highest possible temperature so that you won't have any issues on the low temperature side or the high temperature side. So you can see here the inverters are designed in a very unique way. For any of you that have experience, you know very well what the snap inverter refers to. So basically the mounting bracket, as you can see in the picture on the left, actually shows the wiring terminal block. So all of the AC and DC wiring come directly into this terminal block. And so when you need to do service on the inverter, you do not actually need to touch any of the wiring, which is fantastic. So if you don't have an electrician on staff, you don't need to hire an electrician, and you don't need to spend a lot of time doing service on the inverter. All you need to do is remove 6 screws, throw the DC disconnect on the inverter in the off position, remove the power stage. So the picture on the right, you can see the power stage is pivoted off of the mounting bracket. So you remove the power stage, swap it with the new one, get it reinstalled with the 6 screws, throw the DC disconnect in the on position, and the system's back online right away. It's the fastest and easiest service in the industry. Additionally, all of our products are field serviceable to the board level. So even the boards themselves are not soldered into the inverter, they're all mechanically fastened. And so what that means is they can be swapped in the field. So we have what we call Fronius service providers, or FSPs, in Canada, now in, I believe, 6 different provinces. And what the FSPs do is they go through 3 days of intense training at Fronius Canada in Mississauga, Ontario. And then they purchase spare parts kits from us. And so what they can do with that training and those spare parts is they can actually go to the field, identify the potential failure in the inverter if there is one, and then they'll have the spare part for that board in their spare parts kit. So they can get to the field, open up the inverter, identify the problem, go to the spare parts kit, grab the replacement part, go back to the inverter and get it swapped out very quickly and easily. So the service call went from being the best in the industry to being even faster and easier. One truck roll, you can get the inverter, you can get the issue identified and the inverter resolved. So it's the least expensive and the quickest service plan available. We've got our Fronius rapid shutdown boxes for 600 volt installations. So anyone who's doing residential rooftop or 600 volt installations in general, these are a great product. They're relatively inexpensive. We've got the Duo, which is 2 strings in and 1 string out, and the Quattro, which is 4 strings in and 2 strings out. So if you want to use dual MPPT, you'd go with the Quattro and get 2 outputs to go back into MPPT1 and MPPT2. The reason these are so popular, they fit under the solar, the modules themselves, so they're very low profile. And a lot of people use them to double up as a combiner on the roof, so you don't need to buy a separate combiner. They do a dual purpose for a relatively low cost. So that's a very great product that's been very popular. We're having trouble keeping them on the shelves because they're selling so quickly. We've increased our stock and still not having. So anyway, that is to say we've got a lot of them in stock now, and they're a really great product. In terms of monitoring, we've got 3 platforms. I'll just touch on SolarWeb. SolarWeb's our monitoring platform. It's free, and you can access it anytime you buy a inverter with a data manager card installed. And basically what we'll do is we'll go through a live demonstration of SolarWeb at the end of this webinar, so we can go through sort of some of the benefits, what it looks like, how to navigate it on a very high level. So we'll get to that at that time. So like I mentioned, the data manager card, basically what the data manager card does is it enables and manages communications and all the information being sent to the internet. So what you can do with the data manager card is pull all of the data off of the inverter and report it to SolarWeb. And then on SolarWeb, you can see all of the data for your production and historical data and all those kinds of things. We've also got a weather station, so you could buy certain sensors, ambient temperature, irradiance, module temperature, and wind speed. And so you can get all of that data available on SolarWeb as well if you're looking for a weather station on your PV system. What we've also got is our Fronius smart meter. Our smart meter is a metering device. What it does is basically provides consumption data for your customer. So they can actually look at generation data and consumption data on the same platform on SolarWeb. So if you've got a residential installation and net metering and they want to see how much power they're putting back to the grid, the smart meter will actually, you just connect 2 CTs to L1 and L2 for line 1 and line 2. And what it will actually do is provide all of the consumption on the main service panel at the home. Then on SolarWeb, you can see all the generation data coming off of the PV array and all the consumption data coming off of the main utility panel. And then from there, it'll give you the net charts. We'll look at that again on SolarWeb at the end of the webinar. But it'll give you net charts to show how much power is being consumed, how much power is being produced, and how much is being fed back to the grid. This can also be set up in zero export mode, so you can look at or limited export. So if you want to put a 6 kilowatt system on the home and not backfeed anything to the grid, you can do that with the smart meter as well. It'll compare the generation and consumption data and feed that data back to the data manager, and the data manager that will then limit the power output on the inverter so that it will match the consumption and not overproduce to feed back to the grid. Much like this webinar, we've got many webinars that we host. In May alone, I'll show you all of them. We've got 6 webinars in May with different topics. Typically, we've got between 2 and 4 webinars per month. We do webinars on demand as well. We have regularly scheduled meetings or trainings in-house or remotely, which can be arranged. And so the topics include, deep dive technical discussions, but mostly, tips and tricks on best practices for installation, product training, commissioning, how to commission the inverters, how to set up communications, and a lot of other things. The smart meter, for example, is another webinar that we do regularly. Our training is very easy to find. If you go to fronius.ca, open the solar energy tab, and then under trainings and events, under info center, you'll see training and events. That'll take you right to the trainings page, which looks something like this. So right now, like I said, for the month of May, we've got 6 trainings. We've got DC ground fault prevention, troubleshooting and remedies. We've got SolarWeb and string design webinar to talk about how SolarWeb works and doing string design. We've got retrofitting with Fronius. So if anyone's looking at old fit contracts that are looking for retrofits, that'll be specific to that topic to say, how to use Fronius, how to work with Fronius so that you can design your system. We'll provide design support and all those kinds of things. So that's going to be a really great topic to discuss for anyone who's got retrofits that they've got on the horizon. We'll also talk about zero export with the Fronius smart meter, like I talked about, arc fault prevention and Fronius arc fault circuit interruption. So tips and tricks on how to navigate arc fault. And then on May 28th, again, we'll be doing the retrofitting webinar for retrofitting on existing, on old PV systems that are looking for a refresh on their inverters. We've also got our Fronius Solar online support tool. This is basically a technical support tool where right now, if you were to have a technical support issue with an inverter, you would call into our tech support team and they would walk you through it. You would tell them, okay, I'm using this inverter. I've got this error code. Can you please tell me the steps to, resolve this or get this fixed? If you use the SOS tool, what it'll actually do is go through that same step-by-step issue resolution process that tech support sees at our office. So it allows you to start some of the work without actually reaching out to tech support first, so that maybe you could fix the issue. If you go through all the steps and none of the issues are fixed, what it will actually do is automatically create for you a case and register that in our system, so that when you call us, we will have all of the site-specific information, all of the case information available to us. So when you're on the phone with us, we can look up the case number and automatically see all the work that you've already done. It'll save both of us a whole lot of time so that we can get the issues resolved quickly and easily for you. So now on to the topic. The main topic here is dispelling the myths with Fronius, some facts and figures for you. So I'm going to go through 1 or 2, or it's actually 4 myths really about, general understandings in the industry that are not actually true, or it's up to interpretation, I guess, but that's something that we'll discuss. So myth number 1. The first thing I hear all the time is, I want to use microinverters or optimizers because I don't want to do string design. It's too complicated. I don't have time for it. It takes too much time and I just don't want to do it. That's absolutely not the case. Our solar our Fronius solar configurator tool makes design very, very simple and easy. Typically, if someone comes to me with string design questions, I can whip out a string design with the report for them within 5 minutes. It's very quick, very easy to navigate, and we are always available and happy to help. I know Frankensolar offers design support as well, and if you're having really big issues and you don't know what to do, feel free to give myself a call or give tech support a call, and we'll be happy to support you with your system design. It's generally very straightforward, unless you're having some really challenging voltage concerns, especially on things like retrofits with old 600-volt systems. But then we'll be happy to get on the phone with you and talk to you about how to best navigate that design for you. Myth number 2, string inverters produce less kilowatt hours than an optimized solution. So microinverters and optimizers are getting individual performance from the modules, and therefore they're getting better power output than string inverters. So there's a whole bunch of information that I can provide, also information that's available on the internet to say that this is absolutely not the case. But I always like to give an example. I've got a customer in Barrie, Ontario. He's got a 12 kilowatt barn roof. And on that roof, he's got 6 kilowatts of my competitor's optimized solution and 6 kilowatts of Fronius. And he has told me from, I think he's had the system installed for 2 or 2.5 years. And he has told me that the only time ever that the optimized solution outperforms the Fronius inverter is in January and February, when the system is totally covered in snow. Otherwise, Fronius outperforms every single day of the year. That's because we've got high efficiency inverters that are operating at very challenging temperatures. And so even on the hottest days in the summer, when you're going to lose, when you're going to start to derate from our competitors, we will still be outputting power to the maximum ability of the inverter to make sure that you're getting the best performance during the high yield months and the low yield months that you can get out of your system. And we've got, I mean, compared directly to optimized systems, we've got overall higher system efficiency. So that, combined with our great MPPT technology, allows us to get really good performance out of our systems. Myth number 3, module level power electronics or optimizers or microinverters are safer. Now, as Danny alluded to, and I'll touch on this here, microinverters and optimizers are absolutely in no way safer. The leading cause of fires on PV systems around the world, not just in Canada, are inverters and power electronics, connectors and terminals, and junction boxes. These are generally caused by poor installation practices and poor connections. Those are the primary reasons. Now, when you look at poor installation practices and poor connections, not to say that you'll do that, but nobody's perfect. That said, if one of the leading causes of fires on a PV system is connection points and power electronics, well, when you put power electronics on a PV system, say for example, you've got 22 modules on the roof, that's something around 22 connection points with Fronius, and that's upwards of 65 to 70 connection points with optimizers or microinverters. The amount of connection points increases dramatically when you put more components on the roof. So connection points, number 1, is a high point of failure and high cause of fires around the world, and you're increasing that by 2 or 3-fold on the rooftop. Also, the number of inverters and power electronics is the second cause. With Fronius, you've got only 1 power electronics, which is the inverter on the side of the house or in the garage. With optimizers or microinverters, you've got at least 1 or 2, or 1 every 1 or 2 modules on the roof, plus potentially a separate inverter on the side of the house or wherever it's located. So you're increasing the number of failure points and the number of connections on the roof by a substantial amount, therefore increasing the risk of fire and decreasing the safety of the system. Myth number 4, I need module level monitoring to make sure my modules are working. Again, like Danny alluded to, modules never fail. Never, never, never. The last thing that'll fail on a PV system is modules. If there are going to be issues with a solar module, as experienced installers on the call will know, it will happen within the first couple of months of the installation. If that is to happen, it is very easy with Fronius to identify where the potential failed module is to save the cost and the headache. But for the whole life of the system, you absolutely do not need to monitor the modules because they will not fail. So with that being said, you're spending a whole bunch of extra money, your customer's spending a whole bunch of extra money for products that are not really doing anything. And because these are power electronics, if you're looking at microinverters or optimizers, they are power electronics, they will fail. Power electronics is the same as your laptop or your cell phone or your TV. Nobody's got a 20-year-old, cell phone or a laptop that they're using. They eventually just stop working, right? That's the exact same with all inverters and all microinverters and all optimizers. That's the same with Fronius too. Now, we all put the best possible products available in our products so that they last as long as they can, but they will eventually fail. I'll get on that topic after, but just to say, when you've got optimizers or microinverters on the roof, they will eventually fail. And so that's a lot of failure points on your roof. In addition to that, so here's specifically that topic. If you're still not convinced about anything that I've said, just consider this. So say, for example, you've got a residential rooftop like this one. You've got two surfaces with solar panels on it. It's a beautiful installation. All the modules are packed tight together. If you've got power electronics on the roof under each module, that means there's a point of failure under each individual module. With Fronius string inverters, that eventual failure will happen as well, but it can be replaced very quickly and easily, whether it's under warranty or not. So in this case study, we're going to look at these examples. So if you've got optimizers or microinverters on the roof and this one fails, well, then you're going to roll your truck out, get your ladder out, get up on the roof, pop out two modules so you can access the optimizer or microinverter. You swap it out, whatever, $200, $300 service call. Your customer's okay. The system is fixed. Then a period of time later, this one fails. Then your customer calls you, okay, I've got another failure. Can you please come out? Well, it's only one, easy to access, so maybe $200, $250 service call. Your customer's system is back online and they're happy. Now they're noticing all of this because they've got module level monitoring. So every time an optimizer or microinverter goes down, they see it and they're going to call you to ask you to come out and fix it. So then this happens a period of time later. Now I'll say, before I go on, I'll say I have nothing against my competitors' products. They're all very high quality products. I'm not saying they're going to fail in the first 6 months. It might be 15 years later that this happens, or 10 years later. The point is that it will eventually happen. So this happens. Now you got two different roof surfaces. Both are pretty easy to access. So maybe this is a $500, $600 service call, and your customer's starting to think, well, I'm really spending a lot of money on these service calls for this guy to come out and fix these things. Then this happens. So this, really let it sink in. How much is this service call going to cost you to access all of these modules, to get all of these optimizers up or our microinverters up to fix them? That easily is, $1,000, $1,500 at a minimum to charge your customer. Then your customer is kicking and screaming, well, I'm all the money I'm making, or any money that I'm making on this PV system, I'm paying towards service. This is a nightmare. This is short term is good for you because you're getting service calls and you're getting paid, right? But if you look long term, this does not reflect well on the industry. This customer is not going to refer you to any new customers. You're going to lose face with this customer and potentially jeopardize your reputation as an installer in the industry. So just a quick recap. You swap inverters quickly and easily. So if and when there are failures with the Fronius inverter, like I said, you walk up to the side of the house or you walk into the garage where the inverter is mounted, you pop out 6 screws, throw the DC disconnect in the off position, remove the power stage, replace it with the replacement power stage, put the inverter back on, 6 screws back in, DC disconnect back in the on position. You didn't have to touch any wiring, you didn't have to touch any panels, and the system's back online right away. If you're not lucky, you've got 2, maybe 3 failures where you've got service calls to that system with a Fronius product over the 20-year life of the system. So the Fronius inverter is going to be more cost effective than the optimized or microinverter solution. We've got the SOS tool so for technical issues, you can get quick access to tech support to resolve the issue. Tech support is very accessible, local, understand your concerns and your requirements, and are happy to help. Our operation and maintenance for servicing, fewer truck rolls to get there, much easier to service, much easier to access, and without the additional cost to you and to your customer. And the performance, you're going to get the same, if not better performance than from a Fronius inverter compared to any of our products in the industry, any of our, competitors in the industry. I say avoid the headache, stick with the easiest to service string inverters, consider the 20-year life of the system, and save the added cost and headache for both you and your customer. Thank you, Nathan. That's a good point. Losing money if it's still under your workmanship warranty. So that's all I have for now on the webinar itself. I'm going to pay attention to a couple of questions here for any that come up. And then I'll jump into the SolarWeb live demo. So one question here is, can you touch on the idea of having modules facing in different directions on the same string? If you've got that type of situation, I would say that's a no-no. So I'll say no on that. Go ahead and use an optimizer or a microinverter. That makes sense in that case. So again, I'll say my competitors' products are very good products. There are situations where they make a lot of sense. In those situations, absolutely go ahead. If you've got a residential rooftop and you've got multiple roof surfaces, like 3 or 4 roof surfaces, and you're putting solar panels on every one, it probably makes a bit more sense to use microinverters if you don't want to use 2 Fronius string inverters. That is fine. If you've got very, very complicated shading issues, go ahead and use microinverters or optimizers. Okay, so I'm going to jump into here, there's another question here. Oh, okay. Okay, Sandra, I'm going to answer your question. All right, the questions are rolling in, so I'm actually going to jump into the SolarWeb demo, and then we'll deal with more questions. I'll stay on a little bit later than the time. If anyone wants to stay after, I'll answer some more questions as well. So let me just jump to the SolarWeb demo here. So let me get this over here. Oh, no. Sorry, I'm just my presentation here is not coming together. Just give me a second to swap the view. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. So now you can see the SolarWeb view. So this is the landing page for SolarWeb. If you go on to solarweb.com or just Google SolarWeb, it'll take you here. And then you can click on View Demo, and it'll show you some demo sites so you can play with this yourself, or you can use it as a tool, as a sales tool for your customers. If they want to see what their system is going to look like, they can view some of the demo sites on there as an example. So I'll log into mine so that we can look at some specific sites. So I'll look at 2 specific examples here, one without a smart meter and one with a smart meter. So this is just one example. It's called Aldershot Nurseries. It's in southwestern Ontario, in the Hamilton area. So here you can see, you know, the inverter, and you can see it's producing 92 kilowatts at the moment. Utilization is about 49%. That's because I believe it's a 200 kilowatt system. And then if you, oh, there you go, 163 kilowatts now. So utilization is 85%. So you can look at that. You can look at the energy balance today. If you click on energy balance today right here, you can look at historical data. So here's the production today. We can look at, you know, maybe yesterday was a nice sunny day. So there you go. So yesterday was a nice sunny day, obviously, in Aldershot. So they got a lot of great production at this site. And then we can also look at monthly data to see the monthly production historically. But I want to go back. Let's go back to the main page here so that we can see what this looks like. So just pay attention here. You can see the inverter, how much power is currently being produced, right? So this is, if you just install the inverter on the site, this is what you're going to see. Now, I was talking about the smart meter product, which offers consumption monitoring as well. So here's a site where there is a smart meter installed. So now you can actually see this current power diagram is no longer just the inverter. So before, all you saw was the inverter and the current utilization. But now, because we have consumption data as well, you've got an energy flow diagram. So here you can see in the top left corner, the amount of PV production coming off of the array at the moment, going to the inverter. And then the inverter will be backfeeding, or will be feeding the load. Now you can see the load here on the home is 2 kilowatts. So the net from that, he's producing 26 kilowatts and consuming 2. So the net is being fed back to the grid at 24 kilowatts. In the future, when we've got our hybrid inverters available, it will actually also unlock this fourth leg for the batteries once you have the hybrid system installed. So that'll show you the state of charge of the batteries and if they're charging and discharging. So it'll show you a comprehensive energy flow diagram for all the attached components in your system. Now also, energy balance today is a little bit more data available for you. So before, all we saw was the gray area showing us how much power is being produced. Now we can see this is in Manitoba, a nice sunny day. So we can see here, the black line is showing the amount of power being consumed. And the green area, the green line here is how much power is being produced. The gray area here is the amount of consumption being serviced by the PV generation. And the green area is the amount of power being sold back to the grid. Again, here we can look at historical data. So we can look at yesterday, or if we just, yesterday was a beautiful production day. We can actually go back in time here. So we can look at, you know, say September of 2019, September 23rd. What did that look like? Oh, that was also a very nice day too. And then you can look at monthly data to see all the days of the month in September of 2019. You can look at the months of the year to show what the month of the year of 2019 looked like. So you can actually really dive deep to see what your production is, what your consumption is. So for anyone who's doing some net metering installations anywhere, I would say it almost doesn't make sense to install them without a smart meter, because it really empowers your customer to really understand how much power they're producing, how much they're consuming, and how much money they should be expecting off of their net metering contract at the end of every month. So we've got about 10 minutes left here. That's all I'm going to dive into now. If you've got any additional questions, ask them. I'll try to answer them here. So Sandro, thank you for the question. It says, great content, interesting comparisons, but one question, how can manufacturers of DC optimized systems give 15+ years warranty? What service fees do they pay? In terms of service fees, I'm not an expert on my competitors' products, so I'm not sure what the reimbursements are there. But I understand that they will provide free replacement of the products and some minimal reimbursement. I don't know what the number is. But for 15 years, I would say then in that case, look at the bankability of the company, look at their performance, how they've done. I'm not sure how they're able to provide 15 years. We offer 10 years of full warranty, so that's the warranty plus. I can explain that in more detail, but it's basically a service reimbursement plus the product itself, the replacement parts, and the cost of freight to get it to the location. So that covers that on our end. So Nathan, you said if possible, it is possible to split roof section stringing by MPPT section. That's absolutely correct. Yes. So if you've got two sections, two roof sections, you put one on one MPPT and another on another MPPT. Roof section stringing, and that would be able to provide you the good solution there. Is the free SolarWeb service available to Fronius purchases made while back before it was free? SolarWeb has always been free, so there's no concern there. If you go back to if you retrofit communications onto an old system, then SolarWeb will absolutely be free for you. There's no cost for old systems. That was a question asked by Christopher Scott. Yeah, and so any of you who've got old systems and you want to update to get communications to put a data manager on the system, you can do that. And then the connection to SolarWeb, there will be no additional charge. It will be free. Does the new inverter come with the communication module, or is that a communication card an extra expense? So for residential installations, they will all come with them. For commercial installations, they will be bought separately. Timeline yet for that hybrid system in Canada? That's being finalized at the moment. It looks like it will be probably late this year or early next year, but still to be confirmed. It was supposed to be sooner, but unfortunately with the COVID-19 situation globally, it had some delays with respect to certifications and deliveries of parts. So we will update on that as soon as we have some updated information. Nathan asked, that was asked by Brett. Thank you, Brett, for that question. Nathan asked, what is the price for SolarWeb Premium? SolarWeb Premium does not have a price yet. That price has not been set. So until further notice, SolarWeb Basic is absolutely free of cost. That's what you get with everything. And then a SolarWeb Business is what we're going to call it. The advanced option will be available at a later date. Great, Brett, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. If everyone wants to log off, that is great. Thanks, guys. Oh, Nathan, is the Toro expected to be available in Canada in 2020? No, it will not be available in 2020. Nathan, thank you for the question. What's in the future from Fronius? Thank you, Randy, for the question. So we've got our hybrid inverters. Like I said, we were hoping to get them in Canada in 2020. Those are residential hybrid inverters for solar plus storage. So powered with lithium-ion batteries. Those were hoping to be available this year, but unfortunately, because of all the delays in the COVID challenge, the timeline is now looking probably early 2021. We will see. I'll provide updates to all of our distributors, and then we will communicate all of the updates as soon as they become available. Brett asked another question. Do you see Canada moving toward module level rapid shutdown? Absolutely not, Brett, unless it is mandated by the authorities. So I am a very firm believer that adding additional components and failure points on the roof is going to be additional points of failure and additional points of risk with respect to fire safety. So I just do not think it's a good idea. For residential single phase, for the time being, 600 volt, always going to tell you to buy the Quattros. That is a really great product. It works very well. The Duos and the Quattros work extremely well, and people have been very happy with their performance. With respect to 1000 volt, there are a couple of 1000 volt options that we can discuss offline. For 1000 volt shutdown, if you can't get the inverters within a meter of the array. My first answer always when people ask me for rapid shutdown on a rooftop 1000 volt installation is to get the inverters close to the array and avoid a third-party product altogether. If you can simplify the system as much as possible, avoid adding additional components, third-party products, and things like that. Keep it simple. The benefits of a PV system, I've said for 10 years plus now, the benefits of a PV system, you install it and then you basically can just forget about it. It just works and works. The more components you add, the more complications you add and the more points of failure. So that's my answer on that. Again, we can discuss 1,000 volts rooftop shutdown if that's something that is necessary and you can't get the inverters within a meter of the array. I'm happy to help and have that conversation with you there. Thanks, guys. Unless there's any other questions, Randy and Brett, thank you very much for the questions and your feedback. Everyone, thank you very much for your time. I hope everyone is doing well with all the challenges at the moment. Everyone's still able to stay busy and keep business going. I hope that these webinars are valuable and we'll be, like I said, we've got 6 of them in the month of May. We'll keep them going, so please stay tuned. Make sure you signed up for our newsletter. For all of you that are still here, we're going to be sending you all invites to our newsletter, so please check your junk mail. We will not spam you. We send 1 email a month, maybe 2 for exceptional situations. So it's not going to spam, just really information about our trainings, about updates and information. So please sign up for that when you get that invite, and we'll be happy to stay working with you and connected with you. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Bilal. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for staying until the very end. All the best. And please reach out if you need anything, need any help with Fronius or anything else. Thank you.
All right, guys, I'm going to stay here for another 5 minutes or so. If anyone's got additional questions, feel free, and then I'll shut the webinar down. Hey, Marty, if you're still there and if you actually couldn't hear us the whole time, I'm really sorry about that. I'm not sure what the issue is. It seems like everyone else could hear, but we will provide a recording of this webinar that will be available. So if you wanted to watch the recording of the webinar, you can see all of the information and hear me talking and get all the answers that way. So again, I'm sorry about that if you weren't able to hear the whole time. All right, that's all for this webinar. Thank you again very much, guys. Have a great day.